Every single leader eventually hits this wall. On one hand, you can be the nice boss, the one everyone likes, but your team ends up weak and doesn't hit its goals. On the other hand, you can be the aggressive boss, and sure, you might get results, but you'll have a team that's just running on fear. So what's the middle path? How do you say what needs to be said, but in a way that actually helps people grow? Let's break down that exact art. This really is the classic trap, isn't it? You've got the boss who avoids conflict just to be liked, and you've got the boss who rules with an iron fist. The truth is, neither of these approaches creates a truly great team. The real secret, the real art of leadership, is finding that third path, a way to be both incredibly clear and genuinely kind at the same time. The biggest thing standing in our way actually has a name. It's called ruinous empathy. Now, it sounds good, right? Empathy. But here's the problem. You see something that's not working, but you bite your tongue because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But that silence, it isn't kindness. It's actually like a quiet dose of poison. The person keeps making the same mistake, projects start to fail, and eventually they might even lose their job. All because we chose to be comfortable for a moment instead of helping them grow for the long haul. So to get out of this trap, we need more than just a new technique. We need a completely different way of thinking. We have to stop seeing feedback as this big, scary confrontation and start seeing it for what it really is. This is the core mindset shift we have to make. Okay, first things first, let's get this straight. Feedback is not a weapon you use to attack someone. It's not personal. It is simply data. That's it. Its only job is to close the gap between the results we need and the results we're currently getting. The moment you start treating feedback as just objective information, all the emotional drama just drains away and you can have a real conversation.
And building on that, feedback isn't criticism, it's a gift. Seriously, think about it. If you didn't care about a person's success, you'd just stay silent and let them keep failing, right? The very act of pulling someone aside to give them clear, honest feedback is one of the biggest signs of respect you can show. You're giving them the gift of sight, a chance to see a blind spot they couldn't see on their own. So, if feedback is data, if it's a gift, how do we actually deliver it without making the other person defensive? Well, you need a tool. You need a formula that can systematically turn our subjective judgments into objective, hard-to-argue-with information. And that's exactly what the SBID formula is for. This formula has 4 simple but really powerful parts: situation, behavior, impact, and dialogue. Each one is designed to keep the conversation grounded in facts and pointed toward a solution you can build together. So let's break down each one. We always start with S for situation. This means you have to anchor your feedback to a very specific time and place. So instead of a vague, "you're often unprofessional," you start with, "in Monday's project meeting." Why is this so important? Because it immediately focuses the other person's brain on that one event. They can't argue with it, and it stops their mind from going, "No, I'm not. What about all the other times I was professional?" It gets them ready to actually listen. Now, for what is maybe the most important step, B, for behavior. And the golden rule here is something called the camera test. Just ask yourself this one question. Could a camera have recorded what I'm about to say? A camera can see someone arrive 15 minutes late. It can hear them interrupt a colleague. But a camera can't see disrespect. It can't record laziness. Those are our judgments. Sticking to only what a camera could capture is the absolute key to separating fact from opinion. Just look at the difference here. We avoid those fuzzy, loaded judgments like unprofessional, and instead we use camera test data. You arrived 15 minutes late and forgot the documents. We don't say disrespectful. We say, "You checked your phone while I was speaking." See? We're translating our internal judgment into objective, behavioral data that they can't really argue with. All right, next up is I for impact. This is where you answer the "so what" question. You've stated the facts, but why do they matter? Now, you can talk about the impact on the business, this delayed the client report. You can talk about the impact on the team, this created tension. But honestly, the most powerful lever you can pull is connecting their behavior to their own personal brand. When you say, "This affects how clients perceive you," now you've got their full attention. And finally, D for dialogue. This is what makes the whole thing work. After you've laid out the data, the situation, behavior, and impact, you don't just stop there. You turn it into a two-way street. You ask something like, "So, that's what I observed. From your point of view, what was going on?" That one simple question transforms you from an accuser into a collaborator. You're inviting them to solve the problem with you. Okay, so having the SBID formula is one thing, but using it effectively in a real conversation is another. Let's walk through the actual steps that turn this raw data into real, lasting change. Before you even dream of starting the SBID formula, you have to get what's called a micro yes. This is absolutely crucial. All you do is ask for permission. Hey, do you have a couple of minutes to talk about Monday's meeting? When they say yes, something powerful happens inside their brain. That defensive fight or flight switch gets turned off, and the cooperation switch gets turned on. They have just given you permission to have the conversation. Now, can we please talk about a common but truly terrible technique, the feedback sandwich? You know, where you say something nice, then slide in the criticism, then end with something nice again. It just doesn't work. The praise feels fake, and the real message gets completely lost. The best way? Be transparent. Praise people publicly and be specific about it, but deliver corrective feedback privately and directly. Keep those two conversations totally separate. It builds clarity and it builds trust.
After you've delivered the SBID data, the most powerful pivot in the entire conversation is shifting from feedback to what's called feed forward. See, feedback is all about the past, what already happened. You can't change it. Feed forward is all about the future. What are we going to do differently next time? This instantly changes your role from a judge to a coach, and it focuses all the energy on solutions, not blame.
So how do you do that? Simple. You ask great coaching questions. Don't just tell them the answer. Ask, if you could have a do-over, what would you do differently? Or what solution do you think would work best here? This makes them own the solution. And you always end with, how can I support you in this? That line right there shows you're a team and you're in it together. Okay, theory is great, but let's put this to the test in a really tough, real-world situation. Let's talk about the passive-aggressive genius. You know this person. They're brilliant at their job, maybe the best on the team, but their behavior is just toxic and it kills collaboration. The manager doesn't attack them. They just lay out the data using SBI. Situation, in the meeting, behavior, I observed you sigh loudly and say, that sounds naive. Notice both of those things pass the camera test. Impact, this caused them to shut down and makes them hesitant to work with us. It is completely factual, direct, and almost impossible to argue with. And right on cue, here comes the defense. The genius tries to make it about being right. They say, I'm just being honest, I'm the expert. They're trying to frame the feedback as a request for them to be fake. This is the moment of truth in the conversation. And here is the manager's masterstroke. A brilliant reframe. They don't get into an argument about being nice. They appeal directly to the genius's own ego and their desire to be effective. I don't pay you to be nice. I pay you for your intelligence. But intelligence that can't persuade anyone is completely useless. In one move, they've reframed the problem from politeness to performance. It's no longer about being nice, it's about being effective. So, let's bring it all together. What are the key things to remember? First, ditch ruinous empathy. Embrace being both candid and caring. Second, use the SBID formula to deliver feedback as data, not as a personal attack. Third, always get that micro yes before you start. Fourth, shift to the future with feed-forward questions. And finally, please never use the feedback sandwich. Just be transparent. As we finish up, I want to leave you with a challenge. Right now, think of the one person you've been avoiding giving feedback to. Who is it? What's holding you back? Using the tools we just talked about, what would your SBID script look like for them? Because that conversation you're avoiding, it's almost always the one that matters the most.